Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Reveal Report on a Monday. I'm your host, George Iceman. Thank you for being here. What a show we got for you as we discuss, are some toys evil? Are there toys out there that could possibly be evil? I mean, what's going on? I'm looking at TikTok videos, Instagram videos, and all these videos that have gone viral with all these toys. It's unbelievable what some parents purchase, not knowing, bring it into their home. So we're going to dive into that and show you a few things. So again, we thank you for joining us. If you're new, welcome to the broadcast. Subscribe to be part of the chat, and welcome to our platform. We talk about all things supernatural, paranormal, esoteric, occultic. What does that mean? It means hidden knowledge, things that are not always talked about in public. We're going to try to bring forward. We're going to pick a topic, and we're going to do a little round table and try to brush some light upon some of these things that not everyone is aware of. So thank you for joining us. Hey, follow us on Telegram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe here on YouTube. Guys, we're over 50,000 right now. It's amazing. Over 50,000 I think 53,000 to be exact. Wow, amazing. So thank you so much, guys, for all the support. And we're going to get right into it. I want to thank all of yous for tuning into our last broadcast. It was phenomenal. And I hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend if you're in the U.S. And I believe it was Canada Day as well just a few days ago. So a lot going on in the world. It's summertime, but it's still, the show must go on. It's Monday, even though it's beautiful outside. People are doing barbecues and enjoying themselves. We are still going to give you a show with some information. Hey, Gary Wayne is back this month. Can't wait for him to come back. We're going to get into some crazy stuff with Gary Wayne. He's been on his summer hiatus, doing only a few speaking engagements. Can't wait to have him back. He'll be back, and a few other new guests as well coming. So listen, July is going to be a pretty interesting month. We're going to have some new faces here and some guests. So tune in, and I'll post the schedule, I think maybe tomorrow, Wednesday, the latest, so you guys can see what's going on for the month of July. All right, guys, without further ado, let me bring my co-host and author. Please welcome Jessie Czebotar. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, doing well.
Hey, let's get into it. There are some crazy toys out there that have gone viral. TikTok videos, Instagram videos, social media. And I just spent some time this week looking at what's in the feeds, what's going on. I said, hey, let's do a show on, are some toys evil? So, Jessie, have you had any experience with evil toys? Come across anything like that, by the way?
I have. I think like your typical, I remember they wouldn't let me play with it in the system, but you had Ouija boards, but I would still experience, they would introduce them at the schools, bring them in during lunch times or during, rainy days, and would play with those with kids. Anywhere from those to dolls. Dolls are a big one that have a lot of evil connected to them at times. I think that's like the majority that I personally have experienced beyond like current. I still think there's stuff going on with Pokemon, Digimon, some of those that are more your introductory type toys to spiritual connections, but
yeah, interesting stuff out there, I got to say. And let's talk about it. Let's get into it. I was doing some research. A few toys I've come across. One is called the Evil Stick. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this before. It's called the Evil Stick. Just ever heard of the Evil Stick?
not as a toy, but hey, I mean.
Okay, well, I'm going to play a news article done on a particular toy that a parent found, and that was quite disturbing. I'd like to get your take on it. This is real. It's a real toy, sold in stores, and a parent was outraged. And here's the story. So turn up your volume. Take a look. Here it is.
A disturbing image hidden inside a toy purchased at a local dollar store.
News Center 7's Lauren Clark with why a Kettering mother wants it off the shelves.
A mother bought her toddler this princess wand at the dollar store behind me. Imagine her surprise when the curious little girl peeled back the foil to find this image of a girl cutting herself inside. The packaging promises fairies and, quote, wonderful music, but I doubt many people would call this music. It's difficult to see the image clearly in the dark, But if you pull back the foil, there's no mistaking it.
And if you look close enough, it's not a drawing. It's an actual picture of the girl slitting her wrist. I'm outraged over it. I want to know how they think that is suitable for a child.
Nicole Allen said she found the wand for her 2-year-old daughter in the toy section of the $1 store on Linden Avenue last weekend.
There was Barbie dolls on one side and baby dolls on the other side, and these were right in the middle of where they were at.
The owner of the store told me parents need to pay more attention to what they're buying for their children.
The name on it, it says Evil Stick. So from the name, I would, if I'm buying it for my kid, and I have a lot of kids, and I have young ones, I would inspect it before I even give it to them.
He also said that while he would not buy the toy for a toddler, he thinks it's okay for older kids.
For a 5, 6, 7, 10 years old, I mean, they see that on TV every day.
But Nicole and other shoppers at the store disagree.
You don't want to think about little girls picking that up and thinking this is normal, you know, or funny or interesting or any of those things.
The owner of the store tells me he will not be taking the item off of his shelf unless he receives a complaint directly from a customer. In Dayton, Lauren Clark, News Center 7.
First of all, it's in Dayton, Ohio. We've discussed these areas. However, this toy is all over the U.S., I'm sure in Canada. It's called the Evil Stick, but it's supposed to be a wand or a princess stick.
An evil wand, yeah, maybe. I mean, you got good witches, bad witches.
I mean, there's a picture of someone slicing the wrists with an evil laugh. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not just the evil laugh. There was other symbology in that, you know, the tongue sticking out, that's reminiscent and kind of a homage to Beelzebub, that's known as the demon that sticks its tongue out. And when you have the cutting of oneself, you know, that's often done in homage to worship of certain demons. So, you know, is it encouraging little girls to self-mutilate, you know, to give blood to Beelzebub? That's kind of what's behind that. But, you know, at the same time, I agree with the shop owner, like, you know, it clearly says on the package, Evil Stick. So, you know, it does say 3+, but, you know, I certainly would not be buying that for any of my children. I'm curious with that too. At first, when I heard the term Evil Stick, I was wondering if there was like a stick that was in it, inserted into it somehow. And if that dealt with, you know, wood from wands, or, you know, if there was a connection to real magic wands or something through that. But, you know, it looks like it's more imagery that when they push that light, the face and that image of a girl cutting herself, you know, kind of pops up. But yeah, I mean, scary to think of the access with that.
I mean, you talked about them slicing their skin in drawing blood as if it's a ritual. I can't believe we're talking about this. I mean, obviously,
well, it's the wrist too.
Your conspiracy foil hat is put on when you see this because you don't want to believe it's real. But I mean, the owner himself said, "Hey, that's your problem. I'm not going to take it off the shelf. You know what it is. Do your own research and your own diligence." I mean, to an extent, he has a point. It's up to you whether you want to purchase this or not. You got to do your own work. But I mean, who would think that by peeling back a sticker, you'd see that picture and you'd see that it's called Evil Stick. Man, it's getting wild. It's getting wild.
Right.
I continue looking on Telegram, or I should say TikTok. I don't have my own TikTok. I just look at some of the videos, you know, YouTube, Instagram videos. Something interesting, another story of a toy. And we'll get into this because there's a lot of truth to this. And these are some of the stories that are being told. So I'm going to play this video and then get your take and we'll get into it. So turn it up. Here it is.
If you ever see a Furby in a random spot, you should never pick it up.
Like the toy Furby?
Yeah, so there's a legend that you should never pick up an abandoned Furby because one day, 2 kids found a Furby in the woods outside their grandparents' house, and it was super dirty and super beat up, so they decided to take it home and clean it. But after cleaning it, they noticed it had red eyes, which was super unusual, so they decided to put batteries in it. And once they put batteries in it, it started speaking like how a Furby does. Like, you don't really know what it's saying.
Right, it always used to make some kind of weird sound. Damn.
Yeah, but right after this, it then started to speak English, and it was only repeating the phrase, "put me back."
What?
Yeah, then the grandma came into the room and asked them where they got the Furby, and when she found out it was from the woods, she took it and ran it back out into the woods, and she told the kids that,
"Put me back."
Yeah, this reminds me of so much. Like, there's stories that I've heard of, like the Teddy Rexes or things like that. And we had experiences with our kids with the Elmo dolls that would make noises and stuff like that. And there were things or times where it was like, it does not seem like it's just a toy. And there's been people who've reported things like that with some of the talking toys, that they'll just start talking randomly and say things that, really are not recorded in it, and there's the question, is there a spiritual access with that toy? But that's what that reminds me of.
The Furby toy here, I'm just trying to get a picture of it so I could bring it up so we could add more context to this conversation, because I couldn't always get all the photos. But these Furby dolls go back a while, years ago. And
they were out when we were kids,
There was a conspiracy that was out that I don't know who made it, if it was like another country or something, but they said, people who broke those toys said that there was a system, a camera in it. It was spying. There was a camera in the eyes of the Furby doll, and it was spying on people. This was a huge outrage. People were talking about it. It went viral. What was it spying on? What was it viewing? Who was it for? It's almost what they say again with the TikTok, where
like it's being used by a country for foreign infiltration and monitoring, within households.
What I can say from fact in regards to the supernatural, the occult, and hauntings, whether it's a Furby doll that you found in a forest or not, regardless of that, any object that you find like a doll, I would highly suggest you not bring it into your home for many reasons. And I don't want to give a beginner lecture on authorization in the supernatural realm, in the spiritual realm. But when you do pick one of these things up and bring them into your home of free will, no one forced you to do it, of your own free will, you've picked it up and brought it into your home. Well, whatever attachment or entity that is associated with this doll, you've given permission to now come into your home and affect your life. You've said, come on in. This is the supernatural realm. I know they don't teach spiritual warfare in many places, but this is a fact. And I could give testimony on so many cases where we studied in regards to artifacts that are haunted. Heck, the War and Occult Museum, most artifacts that are there, some of them are dolls, have all had some type of haunting or attachment. In fact, she doesn't completely destroy them. She keeps a lot of them to protect that energy from spilling out. And the second thing is, it's educational, to show people this really exists. It's out there. So she keeps these things in a safe place. Tony Spera, who we've brought on the show many times, is the curator to that museum, protects these things. So again, how much warning? If you see a doll in a forest, in a park, heck, if you see it in an antique store, do not buy it. A lot of these things, you might not want to believe it, are used in satanic rituals. And I'm not even being a conspiracy theorist. I'm telling you that's how it is. And, I've said this on the show before. Jesse, you could vouch for this. We went on one of our gatherings, and we did a weekend retreat with the Reveal Report, where we took a busload of VIP members with us, and we said, we're going to go to the it's like a local cemetery where it had a place called the Chair of Lucifer. This is in Florida. It's been known for a lot of rituals to happen at this place, a lot of observations of dark entities. People who go there an anxiety state, a drunken state, a drug state, a state of euphoria to manifest their desires. We saw toys on this cement type throne chair where witches were bringing them to power it up with negative energy to bring to their own home. Now, we had a person with us who's he's very powerful in the war on spiritual warfare. And I'm referring to I'm referring to Mr. Burns. He's somewhat like a doctor. And he took the toys. He goes, we got to get rid of these things. And these women in front of it.
2 witches showed up
to get the toys.
They were like, who touched our toys that we placed on that altar? They were following us and oogling us and
with energies that they were going to give to some child to bring it to some home, to put it somewhere. Can you believe with your own eyes and witnesses, we proved ourselves by bringing it? It's almost like the Lord sent us there purposely on that retreat. Go see what these people do with these things.
Yeah.
Proof that they power these toys with evil energies. Thoughts on that, Jessie?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they do. And we watched how quickly, they showed up and they were there. They wanted to know, who had taken stuff, but they will. They'll put, energize those things, get negative attachments to them. Then they just drop them somewhere. Usually it's a home of a Christian or somebody that they're fighting, that they're wanting to do spiritual warfare against. And they'll get their children or a pet to just innocently take it into the home. Nobody knows or notices. And, the next thing you know, you've got paranormal activity happening in your home because, you've let it in and it takes it as willing consent.
Wild, absolutely wild. Hey, another toy, and we've touched on this before, but wow, it just, more and more comes out about these things. And I'm referring to Pokemon. Pokemon, supposed to be an innocent toy, but you personally come out and talked about how some of these things that we see in Pokemon are based on demons. Now, if you do a little bit of research, there's a lot of validation to what you said. And I'm going to play something from a guy who studies Japanese literature and so forth. And this is what he had to say about Pokemon. I'm going to play it. So just take a very good listen, and then I'll get your comments. Here it is.
These Pokemon creatures are like virtual cyber demons. Thus said evangelical Christian pastor Rick Wiles after the launch of Pokemon Go in 2016. And he's not completely wrong. A lot of Pokemon are influenced by supernatural beings in Japanese religion and mythology, specifically 2 types of supernatural beings called kami and yokai. In the Japanese religion of Shinto, kami in the most basic sense of the word are spirits, or sometimes translated as gods. Some kami are indeed anthropomorphic deities like the sun goddess Amaterasu or Inari Okami, patron of agriculture and prosperity. But other kami are less clearly defined. The numinous spirits of places like mountains or rivers, or the spirits of natural forces like the wind. Kami are at the center of Shintoism, which encompasses the institutions and rituals and beliefs that orbit the worship of kami in Japan. Yokai, on the other hand, are a type of ghost, monster, or demon in Japanese mythology. The scholar of Japanese folklore Michael Dillon Foster, who has written some of the most definitive books on yokai, leaves the definition open-ended, but he says it could be translated as monster, spirit, goblin, ghost, demon, phantom, specter, fantastic being, or lower order deity. There isn't a clear distinction between kami and yokai. I do think most scholars would say that these are 2 types of supernatural being, but the boundary is hazy. Michael Dillon Foster uses the analogy of a water spirit living in a river. A village that benefits from that river's resources might worship that water spirit as a kami. But if you live in the village downstream where the river floods and there's diseases, they might fear that exact same spirit as a malevolent yokai. A renowned Japanese folklorist, Kunio Yanagita, even viewed yokai as fallen kami. As a Japanese video game created by Japanese developers, we shouldn't be surprised that some of this folklore and religion made its way into the game.
Folklore and religion, talking about demons. What are your comments on that?
Yeah, there's so much with that. You know, the word Pokemon actually goes back to its true meaning, which means a pocket full of monsters. Then when you get into it further, you have 72 main Pokemon, you know, and that connects to the 72 Keys of Solomon, where you have 72 entities in the base form of Solomonic magic, that are split into three main, you know, we'll just say pillars or, you know, line contracts. But you get into with that 72 forms of elemental magic, you know, each of those Pokemon being connected to that, to one of the forms of elemental magic. Then you get the Pokeball, which, or the Digiball, which basically is a summoning circle, you know, that looks like an eyeball. And they literally say, you know, in Digimon, they'll hold up that Pokeball and they'll, or Digiball, the same thing, and they'll say, you know, I summon you.
Wow.
So it teaches the basis of summoning and, you know, connecting to spirits. So, and how are they using them in battle, which gets into, you know, your base forms of spiritual warfare and occultic warfare. So, yeah, it gets interesting when you look into it further.
You know, I'm shocked because you said it talks about summoning circles. I know at one point you'd go to certain areas in the world with these things, and they would pop up to get points, certain demons. So to me, that's portals. Portals.
Right?
Opening up portals and doorways. So we're talking about portals and doorways, summoning circles, name of demons and lore entities. These are real things that they think is fun that we're allowing children to play with. Do you see that maybe there's something wrong with this, Jesse? Your thoughts on this is crazy.
Well, you know, it's interesting because it's really an interacting live role-playing game when you know, take it beyond just, you know, originally it started off more of just like a cartoon series, and then it would come along with cards, and people would collect the cards with, you know, the entity and its playing specs on it. A lot of those type of initial card games are connected to things like, you know, um, we'll say, you know, occultic card games that were used, to, you know, draw people into learning how to battle, learning strategies, learning how to, you know, engage between the physical and the spiritual worlds. So they were used as a training tool by the occult. You had things, you know, that would kind of be similar to that, that would get into the live role playing action games like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, and Vampire Masquerade was another huge one.
Yeah.
Some of these games had boards, others, you know, they would just use cards, and you know, you would, then it morphed to where they were more online, like your WoW games, World of Warcraft, and you know, they would be bringing spells, incantations, different strategies, moves, that you'd have to learn in order to, you know, grow, strengthen your character, and win in certain battles or fights. So, you know, the basis of it was that, and then, you know, it morphed more into the AI where, you know, they're going to have it where you have to, you know, your phone will show up ping when there's a Pokemon in the area, and then you have to do certain things to
Wow.
try to get that spirit, you know, get access to it to be able to use it. But you know, the games get pretty advanced as you get into it more. There's a lot of knowledge that goes with it, you know, where it tells you about the specs, it tells you the qualities, the strengths, all of that. Um, but there's a real interfacing between the mind, getting you engaged in spiritual warfare without even knowing that you're engaging in spiritual warfare. And none of that is with scripture. You're not engaging with good beings. You're opening access up to a lot, not even understanding what you're opening that access to.
Wild stuff. Just a few years ago, a preacher came on to talk about Pokemon, and he had some interesting perspectives and his thoughts and views on Pokemon. Let me play this video, get your take, tell me what you think. This is about Pokemon. Once again, this is a preacher's point of view. Take a look here.
That's Pokemon. Son, I found out that Pokemon means pocket monster. Pokemon, plural, are incredible creatures that share the world with humans. Each has its own fighting abilities. Some grow and evolve into even more powerful creatures. The children are developing relationships with all these Pokemon creatures. Little, reclusive, power-filled monsters. But why should they carry these monsters in their pocket? They say the Pokemon whole effort is to train children how to become the #1 Pokemon master in the world. You follow it through the New Age teaching, you find out that masters are those who take control of spirits in the dark realm, and they tell those spirits what to do. The child at some point becomes capable of taking these powers and channeling them through their mind, through their arms, or through their power sources. Their power sources, of course, are many of the symbols that they pick up from the Pokemon paraphernalia. So Pokemon is a game that teaches children how to enter into the world of witchcraft, how to cast spells, how to use psychic phenomena, how to put to work supernatural powers against their enemies, how to fantasy role play. Pokemon world is a world of the demonic, of the satanic. But while you might not take it quite seriously, I assure you that demons take it quite seriously.
I mean,
Well said.
He does make valid points.
Yeah.
You know, what he was saying is it does teach kids about manifestation, about role playing, about
power, how to gain power, how to assess power.
Yeah, witchcraft, because that is a form of witchcraft. Master of these demons, which he's correct. A master is compared to a master witch who has control over these dark entities in dark places. A lot of it makes sense what he has to say, whether you agree with him or not. It's pretty wild that a game, Pokemon, has this much of association. Question: do you believe the creators of Pokemon knew exactly what they're doing in regards to this? Or are people just jumping ahead of themselves and adding things and making a big fuss over nothing? Thoughts?
No, I think they knew exactly what they're doing, because when you really compare and parallel some of the things, that are going to be taught in your basic witchcraft, when you get into the Keys of Solomon, it's like those are the things that are being looked at. What are the authorities? What are the jurisdictions? What are the strengths? What type of elemental magic do those spirits connect to? When and how are you going to use them? Which spirits have more authority than other spirits? What specs are going to, win a battle? All of that is your basic assessments in witchcraft when you get into the witches' battles. So I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And, I would propose that there probably was, that it became a tool, a recruiting tool to get people interested. It seems crazy, but I witnessed this firsthand for myself, how these individuals work and operate, and how they use things that look simple and innocent. Back in the early 90s, the movie, The Craft came out, and for whatever reason, the Lord had told me to gather a group of people and to begin to start to pray. So we began to pray about it. It was going to be coming out in the theaters. Well, as we prayed, the Lord told us to go. And so, we were prayed up, we went, and it was, there was all these young teenage girls that were there. And literally, as we're sitting there in the movie, we're praying, and there literally were witches and warlocks sitting in there too. We could clear as day hear them speaking incantations over these girls. And as soon as that movie was over, they were targeting those girls in conversation. And it was, wasn't that cool? Wouldn't you like to do that? Come join, us in the woods on this day, and we can teach you how to do that. And we were right alongside, evangelizing those girls as those people were recruiting. So I think it's one of the most advanced recruiting tools that has been made for for teaching the basics of Solomonic magic, that's not witnessed for or recognized for what it really is.
It's wild to think we're having a conversation about these type of toys. And again, this is for me scrolling and looking at things. It's wild how the indoctrination happens at a very young age of your own free will. The kids get the parents to get them the toys. I mean, the movie that came out and that's very popular called Harry Potter. I went to Universal, and Universal Theme Park created a section based on the movie Harry Potter. And what I found interesting is they did a similar type of thing, like Pokemon, pretty brilliant on their end. They indoctrinate you to want to be in magic, and here's how they do it. They have different priced wands, and each wand has a special power and different price ranges, of course. Right. Yeah. So they sell these wands, and people are buying these wands. Now, there's some type of technology with these wands, because around the park, when you point the wand at a certain area, something happens. A color pops up, something happens, something goes on. I didn't want to put too much emphasis on it, but I was shocked. And so now you have to buy this wand.
Well, you have to buy them all to experience all the powers that each of them have,
They took this wand, and I saw little kids pointing it, and that's the beginning, because they're thrilled. Kids are going to see that. They're like, whoa. And that's the idea, to open up their minds to magic, witches and warlocks. And like I said, I went to see it firsthand, and it's unbelievable that you can buy these wands, and they're set up to do things at the park, like a Pokemon type of thing, where you have to open up a portal and so forth. But they think of every little aspect of it. It's unbelievable. Again, just going through Twitter, going through Instagram, and these social videos, more things coming up on the Labubu Doll. And I said, okay, let's do some research. I'm going to play this first video about the Labubu Doll. It's the newest thing. Have you heard about this doll?
No, I hadn't, but I did remember. I'll tell you in a minute about the one it reminded me of, but this is so crazy.
Crazy. The Labubu Doll is the new craze of the world. Women are going nuts, some guys as well, but a lot of women are going insane to buy these things, and they're buying all kinds of different looks and styles, but they have these mean little faces with these little teeth. I mean, cute little demons, apparently. That's what they're saying. But hey, okay, let's listen to the first video. And this is social. This is all over social media, popping up everywhere, so take a listen.
The Boo-Boos are going crazy right now, right? Yeah. There's this specific person, this story, he collects Pop Mart figures. A whole bunch, he has so many. Okay. Because Pop Mart owns Labubu. Yeah. He went to bed. Now, he said, after a while, slowly and slowly, he would feel a presence of somebody watching him. Right? And the only thing that's there are the figures. So he walked over to it. He feels the spirit there, in not one, but in 4 different figures. Yeah. Hell no. You can't just take it and throw it out. You can't do that. because they'll get offended. Literally any figure can be possessed by a spirit as long as it has 2 eyes, a mouth, and it's shaped as if it could be alive. It could be like a teddy bear, anything. Now what he did, he brought it to a psychic, a certain spiritual medium, took away all of the spirits, took all of those figures away. He said if I leave it there long enough, it could be a matter of time because they're susceptible to being possessed. And he said the only way to avoid it, there's a certain like...
So, the claim in this video is that he had these things and he felt like he was being watched. There was a presence in the room. He saw that there was negative energy happening. He brought it to some type of psychic who said, yes, there's attachments to these things. Interesting. That's just one video. I'm going to play another one, let you comment on it before we get into it even deeper. Here's another video that's gone viral about the Labubu doll, or the toy, or the bear, whatever you want to call it. Here it is.
You know what actually has a dark side though? That's really popular right now?
What?
Labubus. They're kind of demonic. I think it all started because one girl, she saw like a Labubu at a vintage store, and then it was surrounded by all these candles, and she decided to take it home, right? And then she's telling like, yo, I think these things actually carry like demonic spirits, just because as soon as I placed it in my car, I almost got into a car accident, and I kept like getting sick.
The following day, my chest starts hurting. Why do I feel like there's like a tug like in my heart? Like, okay, well, today I'm on my way to the gym and I'm driving, but I was looking at my rearview mirror and I see the person coming at me. I see them coming and I'm like, in split seconds, I'm like, they're gonna hit me. And they did, they hit me.
Damn. But it was also at a thrift store, so maybe that impacted it too.
Yeah, because what if there's energy put onto it?
Yeah. I found out the guy was influenced from like Nordic folklore. The play that he got it from is called The Little Monsters.
Oh, and so it's based on real stories.
And the monsters actually do bad shit.
What do they do?
Accidentally do bad stuff.
So she got it from a used store. Goes back to what we said in the beginning. Do not purchase anything in an antique store, a used vintage store, or find it in some type of a park and take it home. Do not. She did. And she got into an accident, and she truly believes it was from this damn doll because she felt negative energies. Now, a lot of people have that instinct. A lot of people have a very good instinct. You know, some people call it discernment that the Lord gives you, where you feel something. Something's not right. It's off. Apparently, she
listen to that, and don't buy it.
Yeah, and she bought the Labubu doll, and this is what happened. So I want to get your take on these little fuzzy creatures before we dive any deeper into the Labubu doll. What are your thoughts on what you just heard?
These are so similar. So it actually, they had another form of this, and they were called Fuglers, and they were like a plushie, more plush, like they didn't have the little plastic face, but then they had actually what looked like real teeth. And some of them, you know, would have voice boxes and would sing. But very similar, and you get a lot of folklore tied to, you know, creatures that come in the night. They somehow attach with the teeth or steal teeth, torment children. You know, but I think the concept of, can there be spirits that attach to, you know, toys like this that you know, then can do things at night? Absolutely. You know, beyond these, there used to be the little troll dolls, and I had an experience with those, you know, where I knew there was a spirit with them. You know, a friend had given them to me on my birthday. I wanted to honor and was like, oh, you know, nothing bad will come of this. But I tell you what, when, you know, I started having stuff happening and finally I was like, I got to get rid of them. And the day I had that thought, I was walking up into my room and literally I watched them run and hide. And I called a friend over. We searched until we found them. But then, you know, we tried to burn them. They wouldn't burn. And then, you know, we ended up finally like getting like wrapping them in all these garbage bags. And we prayed over it before we threw it away and commanded them that they had to stay in the bags and they were not allowed to go anywhere else. But you hear stories of that where people get where they can't even destroy it. They can't burn it. They can't or they try to burn it and all of a sudden they're getting a demonic manifestation, a voice coming out of it. Crazy, things like that people have talked about. But the good news, that's like an example of the Fuglers where,
Yes, that's actually the Fugler. That's an actual Fugler. Really dark. It looks like a dark, bad demon with teeth. That looks horrible.
Yeah, so scary. And, it's like with these things, one, the best approach is just don't get them. Don't get access. Don't give access to your home. Or to your children or other people's children, even if you think it might be a funny joke, just don't do it. But if you happen to have something and you're noticing activity or things, how do we deal with it? Rebuke it, anoint it, bind it, cast it out, and, remove all permissions and authorities.
Yeah.
And then I always advise people, ask the Lord, after you anoint it, is the doll, the toy, is it okay for the kids to play with, okay to have? Ask the Lord, if he wants you to keep it or get rid of it. But, just confess the sin. Lord, forgive me for giving access. Forgive me for allowing, giving permission of this spirit in my home. I rebuke it now in Jesus' name. I bind you. I cast you out. I command you to leave. And, I'm going to anoint this, set it apart, consecrate it in its innocence to God. And, whatever spirits are here, you don't have permission to be in my home or to attack me or my family in Jesus' name,
Yeah. Listen, it's wild what's out there. And there's many different toys. Again, are some toys evil? Obviously, the answer to that would be, from what we see, yes, this is a type of evil. You need to be careful. I truly believe, if you put your energy into this thing, negative things could happen, right? I found a video.
Well, some are created. I guess that's the question. Are there toys that are created with the purpose of having evil attachments? The truth in that is
the
yes,
purpose.
there are.
Yeah. Well, I found a video on these dolls, these Labubu dolls, and he does a pretty good explanation. It's a couple minutes. Sit back, take a listen carefully. I'll get your take on it, and then we'll wrap it up. So, again, interesting how the Labubu doll has gone viral around the world, around the planet, and people are experiencing supernatural things from it. So take a listen. Here it is.
They are called Labubu, and they're everywhere now. On shelves in toy stores, on desks in offices, on TikTok videos, in collector displays. Labubu has quietly become a global trend. With its oversized grin, childlike eyes, and mischievous poses, it looks like nothing more than a cute, quirky collectible. But here's the question. If Labubu is just a toy, why is it everywhere? Why is this little chaos creature being embraced by millions without a second thought? Could it be more than just a trend? Today we're putting Labubu side by side with something far more obviously evil, Pazuzu, the ancient demon of destruction. One looks terrifying, the other looks adorable. But which one is actually more spiritually dangerous? Most people would point at Pazuzu without hesitation. After all, it's terrifying. Clearly evil, right? But what if I told you that the Bible paints a very different picture about how darkness often appears in this world? Here's what it says in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 14. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Let that sink in. Evil doesn't always wear a scary face. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it's playful. Sometimes it shows up looking like a harmless toy. Pazuzu is an ancient figure from Mesopotamian mythology, a demon from the region's spiritual traditions thousands of years ago. Pazuzu was considered the demon of the southwest wind, a bringer of plague, disease, famine, and chaos. In some cases, he was ironically invoked to ward off other demons, but even then, his presence was always dark, fearsome, and destructive. Modern audiences mostly recognize Pazuzu from a movie called The Exorcist, a 1973 horror film that shook the world. In the movie, Pazuzu possesses a young girl, causing her to do horrific things, speak in demonic tongues, defile herself, and torment her family. The movie portrays the terrifying spiritual warfare that can happen when demonic forces are given room to enter a person's life. Pazuzu is shown as the embodiment of demonic oppression, and for many Christians, his presence is easily identifiable as dangerous and unholy. And that's the key point here. He's easy to spot. He's scary, grotesque, uninviting. Most believers, even those only vaguely familiar with spiritual warfare, would naturally avoid something like Pazuzu. We'd never let a Pazuzu statue into our homes. We'd never encourage our children to admire his image. He screams, "Stay away," just by existing. But now let's compare that to something far more subtle, something far more accepted. Meet Labubu. If you've never heard of it, you're not alone. But chances are you've seen it in passing.
Labubu, Pazuzu.
Yeah.
Labubu, Pazuzu. Similar. Take a look here. Very, very similar. The man who created said Labubu was based on, Nordic folklore and little demons. But, I mean, he did a great job with, he's got the feet, the face, the teeth, changed a couple letters. I'm not saying this was his intention. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's quite similar that he's created a doll that's all the rage, that is, portraying a demonic being. Is it based on this demon, Pazuzu, that was based in The Exorcist? It's why she was possessed, spoke in different tongues, and had supernatural powers and abilities. Wild. But again, the question,
I think it's the people are reporting the destruction, the chaos. We already know that is reminiscent of that spirit. Even, Nordic fairies, spirits, or elves, or, trolls, you get where, you get these little spirits that are coming in, wreaking havoc and destruction, sickness, death, pestilence, revenge, payback, vengeance. And what are they going to demand? It's going to be, that's what they want, is they want to destroy. And the more you have working together, all with that intent or intention or goal to destroy. They're not our friends. They're not just a cute little collectible. The intention is, destruction, chaos, sickness, death. Why would we spend money for that offering? Why would we give offerings of that?
Yeah. I got to say, guys, it's an interesting perspective to look at all these different toys. You got to make your own judgment when you purchase these things and bring them into your home. But if you're a parent, or if you have friends with children, you want to buy them a gift, please be careful. Do your due diligence before you purchase anything. Do your research. We really need to watch out what's coming into our homes, because when it comes into your home, you give your own permission. You give blessing for these supernatural beings to enter and have their way. Unfortunately, that is the rule in the spiritual realm. That's just what it is. You're giving consent when you bring it into the home. So you need to be careful what you're purchasing. Do your due diligence and watch. Question again, Jess, I asked you before. We're going to close off this way. Are some toys evil?
Yes. And I think another thing you reminded me of too when you were talking is that it's not always just in the stores, or, I was seeing some comments where people were mentioning, commercials, and that sometimes you can get these toys free, or you get them at an added bonus. one of the biggest ways that would happen is, you know, you get a connection with some of these things to Pokemon or to, you know, Happy Meals, or, you know, they'll come in connection with something else, like your kids go to pick out a backpack and, you know, they've got this cute little keychain or something on there, or, you know, it comes as something free. That's something to be wary of too. You know what your children are getting. You know, if the Happy Meal surprise is something that you don't approve of, you know, you need to be firm and just say, nope, I'm sorry, it's got to go. You know, teach your kids how to get rid of it, you know, how to take that authority and say, no, I don't want any connection with this, and, you know, throw it away. It's a great time to teach how to pray, how to confess, how to, you know, discern. You know, just because you get something for free doesn't mean you need to let it be in your life. You know, how to graciously say no and decline, you know, is a great tool of discernment to teach children.
There you go, guys. You got to watch what you're buying and what you bring into the house. I appreciate you guys for being here on a Monday. After this, I got an after show going on my Patreon, The Reveal Report, where we do a roundtable Q&A. We answer some questions. If some people have some questions, and we always get some great questions, so we're looking forward to that. It's coming up next, so stay tuned. Link is in the description. Just before we sign off, anything you'd like to say for everyone watching?
Yeah, you can find me on kingdomlivingwithjessie.com. I encourage you to check those out. And then check out some of our past shows that we've done, and share this episode as well as others, because we've done some great shows talking about haunted things, you know, possession of items, other topics like that. So I encourage you to go back and see some of the wealth of information that we have out there in regards to this topic.
Thanks so much, Jess. Guys, listen, someone just came in on PayPal, and special shout out going out. Special thanks to Dolly D for the donation on PayPal. Dolly D, thank you so much. Oh, Lisa N just came through, Jessie. Lisa
awesome.
M. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Lisa. Late, but better late than never. Lisa M, thank you so much. Coming through with a donation on PayPal. Thank you to Lisa M and Dolly D. It means a lot, guys. And if you want to help, go to paypal.me/George Iceman. The link is right there in the chat. Guys, Mondays, we do this show, and instead of keeping it exclusively on Patreon, we do it here on YouTube, but it is a lot of work. You got to look at videos. You got to edit videos. You got to find the topics. You got to lay it out, and you got to produce it. And I hope you guys enjoy the content that we create for you every single Monday right here in the Reveal Report. Show some love and support. Give us a like. Go to paypal.me/in the description. And join us for the after show happening next on the Reveal Report. Hey, guys, for Jessie and myself, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great night, and we will see you next week. God bless. Good night, everyone.